Government, the Honourable Surujrattan Rambachan. Dr. Rambachan, good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being so patient while we spoke to your colleague.
That's a very interesting conversation
with Senator Ram Narayan.
With Senator Ram Narayan.
The issue of pause of arrest and the death penalty. First, let me start with your ministry. Let me rewind and start with your ministry. Yes. The recent housing and population census, of course, would be of great interest to you.
Very much so.
Showing that Tunapuna Piako, as you would have indicated before, growing, Chaguanas growing.
Yes.
How does this impact you using your resources moving forward with this definitive data?
Well, what it does is it will cause us to reevaluate how we distribute resources in terms of the areas. So what has been happening there, of course, is that a number of new housing settlements that have grown up both in Chaguanas and in the Tunapuna Piako area. But there's also an internal migration of people into those two communities, particularly Chaguanas, which has always been a new center for business activity and commercial activity. I always cite the example of Price Smart, and which has expanded very, very much. There's another $1 billion investment to take place right now in Chaguanas, which is the expansion of the Center City Mall. And also you have the Guardian newspaper, which is now being printed there. But in making that point, let me also say that what we are seeing is a demonstration of a new confidence by the business sector in the country. And people are not going to invest that kind of money if they don't think that they are going to get the returns for it. So I believe that people are beginning to see the beginning of a change, a new wave of activity and business growth, and they are latching onto those opportunities.
How important is government's decentralization thrust now that we're seeing this migration?
It's very important, and I think that in a way the people are running perhaps faster than us. We have said that rural development and the building of small towns is going to be a very important part of the development trust, so that not everything one has to come to the center for it. And if you go throughout Trinidad and Tobago now, you're seeing in the rural towns, whether it's Pinal, Rio Claro, Point Fortin, wherever, you're seeing an expansion of business activity. I was in Point Fortin recently, and I was surprised to see the number of new businesses that have grown there, so to Rio Claro and so to Pinal. So people are beginning to focus. They have latched on to the vision of let us build up the small towns and let us provide economic activity there. And that's a wonderful thing, because it means jobs, it means people are going to have money to spend and what have you. But it means for us in local government that we have to relook our strategies in terms of the services we provide and how we intensify our approaches to do that.
When you think of the population explosion in the Piako Tunapuna Regional Corporation under Khadija Amin, Madam Chairman Khadija Amin, and now the resources that obviously are being stretched possibly beyond the limits in terms of the responsibilities of that corporation. How is your ministry going to rationalize what she has to do with limited funds and resources?
Excellent question. And one of the things we have to do is to build more capacity, human capacity to do work. Because if you're providing financial resources, you have to have the human capacity. It means that, the engineers, the project implementation units, we got to do more strategic planning, which they are doing well, I must admit at the moment. But there has been a tremendous shift already in terms of local government performance. You'll be very happy to know I've come on this program several times, and I've been talking about the development programs of the different corporations. This is the first time in the history of local government that by the time the midterm review comes on, at least 75 to 80% of all the projects will be finished. So many corporations will then be able to go back to the government and say we need new funding for the rest of the year. So that's a very exciting development for me in local government.
One of your main points in the last 6 months was holding regional corporations more accountable, not only in terms of the councillors, but straight up the management line.
That's right.
How has that gone?
That's proceeding very well. For example, in terms of the CEOs, they now have evaluations that are done on a quarterly basis, and also what you call the professional staff that has been hired, the corporate secretaries, the medical officer of health, the accountants, and what have you. And I have, since I've come into office, together with the permanent secretary, we have looked at new standards of performance in order to evaluate those standards of performance. The local government corporations must be run as a business. Here we are spending money, and people must get value for money. And in my own view, I think people are beginning to see that value for money that's happening.
One of the fallouts coming from the census is that the head of the Senator Ndama Mahasaba, Mr. Satnarayan Maharaj, has said that he thinks that there may be some concerns where the methodology of the census was concerned, given the fact that your ministry will be using the data pretty extensively moving forward in terms of strategy and policy. How do you respond to that?
That's his view. I have looked at the methodology that they use, and I'm pretty well satisfied that the methodology was a good one. In my own house, they came and we gave them all the data that they wanted, my whole street there and so on. So I think that the Central Statistical Office has done a very good job of getting us to the point where we know now not just how many persons live in Trinidad, but there are other vital pieces of information in that is very important for analyses, for development planning and what have you. And I am beginning to use that information both at this central level of the ministry and as well with respect to the regional corporation.
Your ministry has a new initiative starting tomorrow.
Yes, it's a very important initiative, and it comes on the heels of the constitutional the consultations on the Constitution led by Mr. Prakash Ramada. This is the policy on local government modernization and transformation. So you have two things going, the Constitution consultations and the local government policy consultations. And we begin tomorrow night at the San Fernando City Hall, Harris Promenade at 6 p.m. And then we go to Arima next week, Tuesday, at the Eastern Credit Union Banquet Hall, Chaguanas on the 19th at Center Point Mall, and then we come to Port Spain on the 26th, City Hall, Knox Street, Tuesday nights. We hope to do 14 consultations over the next 3 months, and then take all that data and develop a white paper, and of course then move through the legislative process. We believe that we came into office as a government promising people that they will have a say. And I want to put it in those simple words. They will have a say, that their opinion will be valued. And people can now begin to see the proof of that. The proof of that is that the consultations and the Constitution are taking place in the public, and also now local government, because local government is about real local democracy. You cannot build a country unless you get people really involved in building their communities. And the three goals of local government right now are: one, delivering better quality services; two, facilitating building of better communities; and thirdly, facilitating the development of stronger councils so that they can assist in the first two. And that is why we are placing so much emphasis on the quality of councillors, on full-time councillors, on support staff for councillors, because we do believe that local government has a vital role to play in the overall development of the country. We believe that when people have an opportunity to build something, they are much more committed to it, and I think that is something that we are trying to achieve in local government.
We're going to take a break. We're with Minister of Local Government, Dr. Surujrattan Rambachan. I'll pose a question to you before we go to break. In the interest of that and the evolution of local government in Trinidad and Tobago, what do you see as your ideal local government body moving forward, given the changing landscape of one, population and needs in Trinidad and Tobago, and two, the empowerment and capacity building capability where the local government bodies and regional corporations are already the foot soldiers of any policy, delivering services on the ground, mitigating disaster, etc. That and more coming up right after this break. 7:29. Welcome back to First Up this Monday morning. You can get more of our interviews throughout the day on our website, ctntworld.com. Still in studio with us is Minister of Local Government, Dr. Surujrattan Rambachan. Dr. Rambachan, before the break, the question about the evolution, what your utopian, what your ideal local government would look like in 5 years?
I think you want to look at that from the point of view of the outputs that you want. Like I said, firstly, you want better quality services. That means that you want a more responsive local government. You don't want people waiting years to have something done. So you have to structure local government in order to deliver on a timely basis. You have to have a degree of flexibility. You have to find a way to reduce the bureaucracy, the length of time it takes to get things done. And as I said, that is being done at the moment. There's great evidence now in local government to show, as I said, by the midterm, 75% of your projects are going to be completed. That's a hell of an achievement. In addition to that, for example, we are going to be paving about 800 local roads starting at the end of the month, and it is the corporations that have done all the estimates, they have done all the tender documents and so on, and all that was done within a month. So that already there's a lift up People are beginning to understand the importance of doing their jobs on a more efficient basis. So that's another thing, efficiency. But efficiency and effectiveness are very important, both of them. Efficiency is of course, your ratio of input to output, but effectiveness is how well the job is done. And that is where we have to look carefully, not just at the employees of the corporation, but the contracting sector, the small contractors in particular who work for local government. And there have been lots of complaints in the past about the quality of work done by contractors. And as you will see, we are now rejecting work and people have had to do over work. I myself gave instructions recently, having examined some roads, that the contractors are not to be paid, and they have not been paid. And in 2 cases, they have had to go back and redo the work.
With that said, how robust is the tendering process, given the fact that if some of these contractors are falling short and getting work and having to do over work, I think
what you're seeing, the tender process is robust. I think what you are seeing is you are seeing a more determined Minister of Local Government, determined to ensure that the country gets value for money and that people are committed to do quality work. I think that's the difference. You know, the minister has a responsibility to the public. The minister can be questioned in Parliament about these things, and therefore I have every intention to ensure that what we pay for, we get as a local government corporation. In that vein, this morning I was driving to Port Spain, and in Chaguanas area, a blue garbage truck was picking up garbage. One of the conditions of the contracts, of the garbage contractors, is that the people who are picking up the garbage must be properly attired. They must have those overcoats, safety jackets and so on. They had no safety jackets. They were working in short pants. There were no gloves on the hands of the people. And I'm going to be calling that contractor this morning through the corporation and saying to the corporation, you got to call that contractor, and if by tomorrow morning he doesn't do that, then we bring in the OSHA people. People must understand that you cannot just talk about a developed society and not behave as a developed society. And it is not just about making profits, you are being paid properly, but human beings who work for you must also be treated properly. And if those little people who pick up the garbage, forget the trucks and so on for a moment, if those little people who go out there and don't pick up the garbage, you're going to have a real problem in the society. So let us treat them well and let us give them the resources they need also to work on the trucks in a particular way.
Let's look at this project working with the Ministry of Legal Affairs. How important is this type of synergy between ministries, and what will be the instruments used to ensure that the consultative process takes into view the views of those who attend there? There's been some consternation in the past that while they have been set up for consultation, some people felt that many of their views did not end up in the final documents.
Sure. The consultations have been recorded, and I think that's very important. Video recorded as well as audio recorded. They are going to be transcribed. The white paper is going to be developed on that. That's going to also come out for comment. And based on that, then we are going to go forward. So it's a detailed process that I'm ensuring happens so that people's views are taken into consideration. This is why it's important. You know, some people, as it were, they stand on the periphery and peep in and comment. We don't want people to stand on the periphery and peep in. We want people to walk in and stand up there before the microphone and say what you have to say, or put it in writing. Also, you may wish to put it in. Not everyone can, you know, articulate behind a microphone, but put it in writing. And I want to invite, you know, people of San Fernando in particular, the city corporation, and Burgesses to be there tomorrow night, 5th.
We have the release up on the screen now.
At 6 p.m. For the consultations. And then they can get a copy also. Of course, that's my website. They can get a copy of the document at the city corporation anytime during the day today and after that, as well as all the 14 regional corporations from 9 to 3. We have 15,000 copies of the document available publicly. So
people can scrutinize.
Yes.
In terms of the continued evolution of the work being done by local government bodies, what would be of assistance to your ministry in terms of getting the capacity up and standards up so that many of the responsibilities and duties of these individuals come on par with professional agencies and they can be looked upon by the public as that, professional agencies?
Paul, there are very good people at local government.
But very often that's not the perception.
Yeah, but they are very good people. So too, there are very good people in the URP. I'm telling you that. The URP, for example, has just designed 11 bridges for me, and the URP are the ones who are going to build those bridges. The URP are building jogging tracks now, they're building pavilions and so on. people don't realize that this is kind of work that URP can do. So now I've pulled in that kind of talent in the URP, and we are changing the URP program in that way. So it becomes a deliverable kind of institution, satisfying particular needs of communities. And of course, in addition to the women's program, the core program and so on, we are going into some hydroponics, tilapia farming and what have you. So there are professional people there, as there are professional people in local government. And that's why I was giving an example. Take Tanapuna Regional Corporation. Tanapuna Regional Corporation right now have done all their work to pave 115 roads in the Tanapuna Regional Corporation. That's a lot of roads. And the engineers there and the people in the county superintendent department, they have done it. They didn't bring outside resources to do it. What is necessary is to build the environment so that people can produce. And the building of the environment, yes, it means resources. But I think one of the missing ingredients, and this is where I've been working with the chairman and the mayors, is how to inspire people to a higher level of performance. How to make a connection between what people are doing and the higher purpose for which they are doing it. And people are beginning to make that connection. And that is where I'm seeing the change coming now in terms of responsiveness and timeliness.
In our final minute or minute and a half, I'm going to switch gears totally. Thrust by your colleague, Senator Logan, to one, bring back the death penalty, and two, precepts soldiers change to defense force personnel with a view to deal with escalating crime.
Well, and as you see, as a responsible government, we are seeking the opinion of the opposition in this matter, because when you go forward with matters like these, you want to have the broadest consensus as possible. And the debate is going to come up, and I'm sure that stakeholders, people who have an interest in both matters, will be lobbying not just the government. I'm sure they're going to be lobbying the opposition, the senators and what have you, to make their views known in the parliament. But at the end of the day, we want to arrive at consensus as we go forward. We have a very serious situation with crime in this country, and let us not run away from it, and let us not play games with it. We have a serious situation of crime, and people feel very much insecure in terms of their movement and what have you. And therefore, as a government, we have to take the measures that are going to bring back a sense of safety and security in the minds of the people. This is one of our responsibilities as a government. And if this is a case where it demands of leadership that you take sometimes very tough decisions. Leadership is not just about the soft decisions, it's also about the tough decisions. And this one is one that requires tough decisions.
It's not the first time we've reintroduced the narrative about the death penalty in Trinidad and Tobago. We're coming up against Pratt and Morgan and all these human rights issues. Do you expect this time to be any different, especially given the oppressive feel of crime and murders in the country? You're
always going to have divided opinions on the matter of the death penalty. You're always going to have matters of divided opinion. There are some people who are against it. There are some people going for it. That's basic. If you remember last time, we were also discussing categories of murder. So I think somewhere in there we are going to arrive at a consensus that is good for the population. I mean, just look at your express of yesterday, I believe it was, and the cry of that father, right? Two sons, two children,
son and a cousin.
Just tied up and burnt well, so far we're still waiting for the DNA, but burnt. And the kind of horrendous murders that they take, cutting off people's heads and so on. Something is wrong. And the government cannot sit by and just be an observer to this. The government has to enter, and we are entering by bringing about the kind of legislation or the changes. You know, it is easy to say that if you precept the soldiers cannot do that job. That is not necessarily correct. You have to have some kind of faith in human nature. And the soldiers are as much affected by the crime situation as everyone else. And I think that the soldiers of this country have always proven themselves to be a responsible group of people. And I think if they come there and work side by side with the police officers and give them the training that they will receive, I think it will make an important change in terms of the ability of the government to fight crime.
Minister Rambachan, thank you for being with us. Much success. The first one, San Fernando.
Yes.
At 6 p.m.
6 p.m. tomorrow evening.
And every Tuesday thereafter.
Yes, sir.
We're going to take a short break and come back.